See if the battery holds up. Okay. I've seen a lot of management situations over my lifetime. People that were managers or people that were employees under good or bad managers, poorly managed businesses, businesses that were salvaged and turned around and all this kind of thing. I've been an employee. Most of the time I've been either self-employed or contracted to someone else, this kind of stuff. But I've seen a lot of management things, a lot of management experience. I've always been interested in that anyway. But I've seen places poorly managed, and I've seen places that were well managed. But if you take, let's think of a business. You take a business that's being poorly managed, it's usually leadership. Okay, it's a leadership issue. Because there's a lot to management, but it's actually very simple. But it's not something that people just kind of naturally come to, for the most part. Most of us are followers. I'm a great follower. I make a terrible leader. But I have to do it in management situations because I was forced into it. Okay, so I made a lot of mistakes early on. As I got older, I realized what was going on. Now, we have lived, and I'm speaking politically for the most part. You know, we've got through elections and all this kind of stuff, presidents and politicians and all this crap. But this is also a cultural thing. But we have been living in a leadership void for so long that it's become the norm. And if you've ever been involved in a group, it could be a small group like your family or a larger group, an organization or something like that, that had poor leadership, it's not a positive thing. A lot of anxiety, a lot of frustration. What are we doing this for? You know, this group against that, all kinds of crap going on. So when there's a leadership void, it's not a natural state to be living in. Instinctively, if you want to just go to herd mentality or pack mentality, which we've got that going on, it's not a state, it's not a good state to be in, a void of leadership. But we have been here for so long as a people that it's become the norm, which I think explains a lot of why things have become the way they are. And I won't even go into the spiritual realm of this. That's a very similar but whole different video. But having seen a group of people poorly managed with a lack of leadership, and then seeing someone step into that role as a quality leader, you could be an evil person and be a leader, but you eventually get found out because you have characters involved. But when you have a group of people that have been poorly managed, and then someone assumes that role, or they're placed in that role of leader, and they know what they're doing, it's amazing. Morale, productivity, purpose, efficiency, the community that it creates for this group that has this goal. People that might have been disenfranchised are now back on the team, all working in the same direction. It's amazing. Trump had some of this, but he also some things that he did weren't doing him any favor, weren't improving his message. But we were so accustomed to living in this leaderless society that when he spoke up, he stepped out of the group and spoke up against, hey, that's, America first, this kind of thing. Man, we're into it. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Trump. But it wasn't a perfect situation. He was an imperfect man, like the rest of us. But right now, especially when we've elected politicians into a position of authority where they can lead what they're responsible for. That's their job. That's the position. It's a leadership position. And I see none of it. Because quality leadership, you can't hide it. You can't, it's flashy. I mean, you can't stop a move like that. I don't know how else to explain it. It's like a shiny car. And none of these people are shiny. But we have been in this void for so long, which is why things are such a mess, especially on a cultural level, why there's so much division. And you have leaders that are concerned about appealing to this group and that group and this group and his friend and his enemy and that, all the identity politics. They want to reach all these groups. They stand for so much, they actually stand for nothing. And that's just enhancing themselves, want to keep themselves elected, getting as many votes as they can. A leader would never have to do that. They don't have to play that game. But the reason I bring this up, we have lived in this void for so long that if someone with a grasp of basic leadership skills and maybe a very simple, defined 2, maybe 3-point plan of a real stuff, not, border security, deregulation, reduced tax, whatever the case is. If someone like that were to step up, I think he would win in a landslide. Not only politically, but culturally. I think a real leader like that would have no problem getting millions behind him, or her. It could happen. Especially now, we are so the morale, the division, all this stuff. We are in such bad shape as a culture that I think if someone were to, it would be a shoe-in. If someone were like that to take that role. The sad part is why would anybody who actually has their stuff together want to step into this cesspool, into this mess? Take on the media, take on the Hollywood and the pop, all this kind of stuff. Why would anybody want to go through that? Which is why it may never happen. The reason I bring up the video is I spent a lot of time in the car today. I had to go all over the place and listen to a lot of talk radio, this and that and the other thing. And I'm in Central California. So you have a talk radio here is on the right. You have left leaning and right leaning. But even that, just because you're on the right doesn't mean you agree with all the stuff that's going on the right. Because the right, or the conservatives, or the right wing, or the silent majority, they don't have good leadership. So it's a divided up group. There's not a guy on the radio right now in my town that I listen to on this talk radio that I agree with. They're either not right enough, they were never Trumpers, they were this, they were that, they're appeasers. And it's like, once again, lack of leadership. But the sad thing is, I don't think we can turn this around. At least not on a big level. You might do something locally. But I've run on too long. The point I'm saying is, when I've seen groups of people that were poorly managed, that lacked leadership, and when leadership showed up, real leadership, it was amazing. You couldn't stop them. You couldn't stop them. You couldn't. And that's where we're at now. But I just don't see that person or thing, group, whatever, stepping up. Why would they? It's very sad. Love you. God bless.